So I did add, there's 2 plays to add for next week as well as we get to the NFL season. First off is Eagles +4, and this was kind of a number grab because I don't think we're going to get to 4.5. So I'm trying to read the market here. Circa was at a little bit of a high there with that 4, so I grabbed it. Still out there if you want to grab it, but I think with this Jason Verrett injury, that's really big for a really thin secondary for the San Francisco 49ers. This Eagles defensive front is going to take on a 49ers offensive line that grades pretty poorly across the board in terms of pass protection. It's going to be much better with the Lions throughout there last week. And I don't want to say I was overly impressed with Hurts. Hurts was really good, though, in that Falcons game. I was more impressed with Nick Sirianni. He actually did a really good job of setting up a game plan that really worked to Hurts' strength.
Did he do a better job than Arthur Smith?
I think he really did do a much better job doing that, right? And think about this. Jalen Hurts' average depth of target in that win over the Falcons was 3.6 yards downfield. That was it. Yeah. But because of the way they used their athletes out in space, the plays that they were running using Hurts' mobility, I really liked what I saw from them offensively. So that, and then, of course, the other one, the Patriots -5. I do a detailed write-up on it in the Point Spread Weekly this week. But the Patriots, run blocking was there. Pass rush was there. Defensive front 7 was strong. And you look at this from the Jets' perspective. Mekhi Becton done for the foreseeable future. An offensive line that looked really poor against Carolina. Elijah Vera-Tucker, their rookie, looked really bad in that game as well. Against this pass rush, against the way they can run the ball, the Patriots, it's a number that's higher than the open, right? Or excuse me, than the look-ahead line. Yeah. But I think it's apt. I think this should probably be closer to about 6.5. So give me the Patriots -5.
Yep, I'm on the Patriots as well. In fact, in week 1, I lost with the Patriots, lost with Washington, but won with the Texans, the Raiders, and won that teaser, so 3-2. Move on to this week, and I'm going to take an ugly home dog that I don't think many people are going to want, but I don't think the dog is that ugly. Yeah. The Carolina Panthers. That number hit 4 today, and I went ahead and played it because I don't think it's going over 4. I was actually surprised to see it get there. I think the Saints are going to be a very popular public side. I was not blown away by their 38-3 win over the Packers. To me, that was more about the Packers not showing up. And the Saints, we've talked about it, they've got injury issues right now, key injuries. And I think the Panthers very live this week as home dogs. And Christian McCaffrey being back is going to make a difference in that offense. He's such a dynamic player. He's going to help Sam Darnold quite a bit. I'm also on the Patriots. You and I talked about this Sunday night on opening lines. That number was headed up. It was obvious. I was surprised that number opened so low. Yep. At that point, it was, Patriots 3.5? Pats -5. And this is probably the ugly dog this week. The Vikings +4.5 over the Cardinals. I still think the Vikings are a much better team than they showed last week in Cincinnati. I like playing a a team that was favored on the road in week 1 and came up short and is now a road dog against a team that pulled an upset on the road in week 1, and that's the Cardinals. Right now, it's one of those week 2 handicapping situations where everybody's a little bit too high on the Cardinals and everybody's a little bit too low on the Vikings. I think 4.5 is actually a pretty good number on this game. I thought the right number on this game should be 3 or 3.5. And I would still like the Vikings in this spot. I think it's one of those classic week 2 overreaction type of spots where the Vikings should be live.
And I think it's working that favor too. It's not only that the Cardinals looked the way they did, it's the Cardinals looked the way they did against offseason darling the Tennessee Titans, right? They got Julio Jones. This is a team that's in an AFC Championship game 2 years ago. They got Derrick Henry.
Is Julio Jones the most overrated player in the NFL?
I don't know if he's overrated, but especially in a system where, remember, this was a team that last year, I think they were, I'll double check the numbers, either first or second in 1 wide receiver sets. This is not a team that is going to spread you out and destroy you with multiple athletes right out in space. And so, there were flaws with the defense. And so I think to your point, right, bringing it back to the Cardinals, the Cardinals looked really good, and they did it against a team that everybody couldn't stop talking about, right? And now the market has swung maybe a little too far in the other direction for Arizona.
It's a pretty impressive win, 38-13 at Tennessee. I understand why people are going crazy over the Cardinals. You just got to calm down a little bit. The Vikings are not as bad as they looked. The Cardinals not as good as they looked, and I think this is going to be one of those games that goes down to the wire. I have one college football week 3 play right now. I'm going to have a bunch more on tomorrow's show, so tune in tomorrow. You and I will have more college football plays, but Notre Dame -7 over Purdue, and I think Purdue's lack of a running attack is going to be a big problem here because you can exploit the Notre Dame defense if you can run the ball. I don't think Purdue's going to be able to do that here, and it's a buy low spot for me off Notre Dame, off 2 3-point wins, one at Florida State and one last week against Toledo. A lot of people are down on Notre Dame. I made this number 10.5, so I think 7 is a great spot to buy it with Notre Dame here. Paul Stone heard me talking about this game this morning on Follow the Money, and he texted me and said he also made the number 10.5 in this game. So it's good to hear that Paul Stone made the same number that I did, and I think Notre Dame -7 is this is going to be a double-digit win for the Irish.
You got a good read on that Purdue program. I trust you.
I've had a pretty good read on the Irish, too.
Yeah. It's fair to say.